You won't believe what just happened inside one of Detroit's most powerful churches. Bishop Marvin Winans, yes, that Marvin Winans of the legendary Winans family, is making headlines for all the wrong reasons after reportedly calling out one of his own church members for donating only $1,200 during a fundraiser. The moment, captured on video, has sparked outrage across social media, with many calling it humiliating, unchristian, and a shocking example of how far some pastors will go for money. But others say there's more to the story, that Bishop Winans was making a point about faith, giving, and accountability. So, what really happened that night? And did Bishop Winans go too far in shaming a member from the pulpit? Stay tuned, because this story is about to take you deep into the world of church politics, pride, and the price of generosity. Bishop Marvin Winans is no stranger to the spotlight. As a gospel icon, pastor, and founder of the Perfecting Church in Detroit, his name has long carried weight in both the music world and the ministry. Known for his soul-stirring voice and his passionate preaching style, Winans has built a reputation as a man of influence, someone who has touched millions through both song and sermon. But this time, it's not his music that's making headlines, it's his message. During a recent church fundraiser, Bishop Winans reportedly called out one of his own members in front of the entire congregation, criticizing them for contributing only $1,200 to the offering. According to witnesses, the moment left the room tense, with murmurs spreading through the pews as the bishop made remarks that many are now calling spiritually manipulative and tone-deaf. The video clip, which has since gone viral on social media, shows Winans addressing the church with a mix of frustration and disbelief. He allegedly said, "After all the Lord has done for you, this is what you give?" Those words have reignited a fiery debate about money, faith, and whether modern megachurch culture has lost sight of humility. In this video, we'll dive deep into what really happened that night at Perfecting Church. We'll look at the timeline of events, how the congregation reacted, and why the situation is stirring such intense emotions among believers. We'll also explore the broader conversation about wealth and worship, and whether pastors should ever single out members publicly for what they give or don't give. But before we get into all that, there's one detail from this fundraiser that few people are talking about, and it might completely change how you see Bishop Winans' reaction. Because according to insiders, that $1,200 came from someone who had already been struggling financially. And what Winans said next shocked everyone in the room. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, a major fundraiser for Perfecting Church's new building project, one that Bishop Marvin Winans had been promoting for months. Members were encouraged to give sacrificially, to sow a seed of faith into the future of the ministry. The atmosphere was electric. The choir sang, the ushers passed envelopes, and testimonies of blessings filled the air. But as the night went on, things took a sharp turn. According to multiple eyewitnesses and a now viral video, Bishop Winans became visibly frustrated when the totals for the fundraiser were announced. One longtime member, who reportedly donated $1,200, was called out by name. Winans allegedly remarked, "You mean to tell me that's all you could give? After how long you've been blessed?" The room went quiet. Some laughed nervously, unsure if it was a joke. Others looked stunned. But the members' expressions said it all: embarrassment, confusion, and hurt. Within seconds, the joyous energy in the sanctuary shifted into something uneasy. A congregant who recorded the moment said, "It was uncomfortable. You could feel the tension. People didn't know where to look." Some were shocked that he would say that in front of everyone. The video quickly spread on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, drawing thousands of comments. Some defended the bishop, saying he was holding his congregation accountable and challenging them to give more generously. But others accused him of spiritual bullying, claiming no pastor should ever publicly shame a member for the size of their donation. One viral tweet read, $1,200 might not be much to Bishop Winans, but that could be someone's entire savings. Church isn't supposed to make you feel small for what you can give. In the midst of the backlash, supporters of Bishop Winans argued that the moment was taken out of context. According to them, the bishop had been speaking about the broader issue of stewardship and faith-based giving, not targeting the individual specifically. One church leader even claimed he wasn't angry about the amount. He was teaching that giving should reflect gratitude. But that explanation didn't stop the criticism. Commentators began asking deeper questions. How much is too much to expect from members? Is there a line between preaching generosity and exploiting guilt? And here's where things get even more complicated. Because sources close to the situation revealed that the member Bishop Winans called out was actually someone who had been struggling financially, reportedly a single parent who had already given multiple times in past fundraisers. When that information surfaced, the outrage grew even louder. Many felt that the bishop, intentionally or not, had turned a moment of giving into a spectacle of shame. Others said it was a reflection of a growing issue in some modern churches, where the measure of one's faith seems to be tied to the size of their wallet. But this isn't the first time Bishop Winans has faced questions about money and ministry. In fact, this moment is just the latest in a long line of controversies about his church's fundraising efforts and spending habits, and some of them go back years. To truly understand why this $1,200 incident caused such an uproar, you have to look back at Bishop Marvin Winans' long and complicated history with church finances. For decades, he's been one of the most respected figures in gospel music, part of the legendary Winans family dynasty that helped shape the sound of contemporary gospel. But in the world of ministry, especially megachurch ministry, that fame often comes with scrutiny, and Bishop Winans has faced plenty of it. Perfecting Church, located in Detroit, has been a pillar of the community for more than 30 years. Thousands have passed through its doors, drawn by Winans' powerful preaching and his family's musical legacy. Yet over the past decade, whispers about the church's financial dealings have repeatedly surfaced. Back in the mid-2000s, reports began circulating about the long-delayed construction of the church's massive new worship facility, a multi-million-dollar project that has stretched on for years without clear completion. Some members began to wonder where the donations were going. Fundraisers, pledge drives, and seed offerings became frequent events, and while Winans always framed them as necessary steps toward building God's house, critics started questioning whether transparency was being lost along the way. Former congregants have spoken out on social media about what they describe as giving fatigue. One wrote, "We gave, we believed, we sacrificed, but the building still isn't done. And now people are getting called out for giving what they can. That's not ministry. That's manipulation." To his supporters, however, Bishop Winans remains a man of vision. They point out that he has used his platform to feed the homeless, provide scholarships, and support missions. They argue that the construction delays and fundraising pushes are simply part of the growing pains that come with a major church expansion. "He's not scamming anyone," one loyal member insisted. "He's trying to build something that will stand for generations." Still, the optics of this latest incident have reignited old wounds. The public calling out of a member for giving only $1,200 seemed to many like confirmation of a deeper issue, that Perfecting Church has become more focused on dollars than discipleship. Adding to the controversy, some insiders claim that Bishop Winans' recent sermons have leaned heavily into prosperity themes, emphasizing financial sowing as a measure of faith. One clip that resurfaced after the viral video shows him saying, "You can't outgive God, but you sure can test him with your lack of faith." That kind of language has sparked a heated debate about whether the line between faith-based encouragement and guilt-based manipulation has been crossed. Even more troubling, church insiders revealed that several members have quietly left over the past year, citing discomfort with how money is discussed during services. "It used to feel like worship," one former attendee said. "Now it feels like a sales pitch." Yet through it all, Bishop Winans has remained largely silent, only issuing brief statements about misunderstandings and context being taken out of proportion. But behind that calm exterior, many believe the pressure is mounting, not just from critics, but from within his own congregation. Because if there's one thing churchgoers hate more than scandal, it's the feeling that their generosity is being taken for granted. And what's coming next could determine the future of Perfecting Church, because insiders say this backlash is beginning to divide members, and some of the most loyal supporters are quietly demanding answers. The fallout from Bishop Marvin Winans' $1,200 comment has been nothing short of explosive, not only online, but inside the walls of Perfecting Church itself. What began as a viral moment has now turned into a full-blown internal conflict that's forcing the congregation to take sides. In the days following the incident, social media lit up with divided opinions. On one side were those defending the bishop, arguing that his words were taken out of context, They claimed he wasn't shaming anyone, but rather challenging his flock to give at a level that reflected gratitude and commitment to the church's mission. People are too sensitive, one supporter commented on Facebook. Pastors hold us accountable. That's their job. If you can spend thousands on luxury items, you can give more to God. But others saw it differently, and far more critically. Many longtime church members and fans expressed disappointment, saying this moment exposed a growing problem in modern megachurch culture. This isn't about accountability. One user posted on X, formerly Twitter, "It's about humiliation. You don't call out someone's giving from the pulpit. You praise them for what they can do, not shame them for what they can't." Inside Perfecting Church, the tension was even more palpable. Several members reportedly approached leadership, expressing concern over how the incident was handled. According to an insider who wished to remain anonymous, some people are afraid to give now, not because they don't want to, but because they don't want to be publicly embarrassed. If it's not enough, local Detroit residents who have followed the Winans family legacy for years say this controversy feels especially personal. The Winans name means something here. One community member told reporters, "They've given so much through music and ministry, but this hurts their image. It makes people question the heart behind the message." Adding fuel to the fire, the member who was reportedly called out has not spoken publicly, but sources close to the situation say they were devastated by what happened. "They gave what they could," a family friend said. "They've supported that church faithfully for years. That $1,200 was a sacrifice." Meanwhile, public figures and other pastors have begun to weigh in. Gospel radio hosts, YouTube commentators, and even church leaders from across the country have discussed the clip, calling it a cautionary tale about the dangers of pulpit pride. One viral TikTok sermon mashup paired Bishop Winans' remarks with a pastor saying, "You don't measure faith in dollars, you measure it in devotion." The message hit home with thousands of viewers. Even among clergy, opinions are split. Some pastors quietly support Winans, saying they understand the frustration that can come with trying to fund a large ministry. Others believe he crossed a spiritual line. One well-known Detroit minister commented, "You can encourage giving without embarrassing people. Jesus praised the widow who gave 2 coins, not the ones who gave millions." The division has left Perfecting Church facing one of its most serious reputational challenges in years. Attendance reportedly dipped slightly the following Sunday, and while many loyalists returned, the murmurs in the pews were undeniable. Some congregants came just to see what he would say next. As the controversy deepened, Bishop Winans' leadership team reportedly held a closed-door meeting to address the backlash. According to insiders, the discussion centered on whether he should publicly apologize or clarify his remarks. So far, no official apology has been issued, only a brief statement saying, "The moment was misunderstood. The focus remains on the vision God has given our house." But silence has only fueled speculation. And now, some members are threatening to leave if the situation isn't addressed directly from the pulpit. Still, those closest to Bishop Winans say he remains unbothered, confident that his words were rooted in principle, not pride. But as the backlash grows, even his most loyal followers are beginning to ask, is this the kind of leadership the church still needs in 2025? Because what happens next, and whether Bishop Winans chooses humility or defiance, could define not just his ministry, but his legacy. The controversy surrounding Bishop Marvin Winans isn't just about one moment or one donation. It's about a much larger issue that has been brewing in churches across America for decades: the complicated relationship between money, faith, and ego. In today's age of celebrity pastors and megachurch empires, the pulpit has become as much a platform as it is a place of worship. Leaders who once preached humility and service now face constant pressure to fund massive buildings, media ministries, and social programs, often turning Sunday sermons into fundraising campaigns. For many congregants, it's hard to tell where faith ends and financial ambition begins. That's why Bishop Winans' $1,200 comment struck such a nerve. To some, it symbolized how far parts of the modern church have drifted from their original purpose. The early church was built on sacrifice, one commentator said during a recent gospel radio discussion. But now people are being made to feel guilty for not being wealthy enough to impress the pastor. Social media users echoed that sentiment. "It's crazy," one viral post read. If you can't afford to tithe 10% or drop thousands in the bucket, you're treated like you don't have faith. But where's the faith when pastors are living in mansions while members are struggling to pay rent? And that's where the debate gets complicated. Many pastors, including Bishop Winans' supporters, argue that prosperity teachings aren't about greed. They're about gratitude. They say that giving generously is an act of worship and a reflection of one's trust in God. But critics counter that such teachings often blur the line between spiritual encouragement and emotional manipulation, especially when tied to promises of blessings or miracles. Experts in church leadership point out that this kind of theology, often called the prosperity gospel, has become deeply entrenched in American Christianity. It emphasizes the idea that faith, obedience, and generous giving will bring material wealth and success. While it has inspired millions to give, it has also left many disillusioned when financial blessings didn't follow. And now, in an era where everything is recorded and shared online, even a single moment of questionable judgment, like calling out a donor for giving too little, can undo years of credibility. For Bishop Winans, this latest backlash is forcing both supporters and critics to reevaluate what leadership looks like in a modern ministry. Is it about building bigger churches or building stronger people? Is it about the pastor's vision or the congregation's well-being? Church analysts have pointed out that incidents like this one are part of a larger trend, a growing disconnect between church leaders and their members. Younger generations in particular are walking away from organized religion, citing hypocrisy, financial pressure, and performative leadership as key reasons. People aren't rejecting God, one Christian journalist noted. They're rejecting how God's name is being used to demand money instead of offering hope. Still, there's a lesson to be learned here, not just for Bishop Winans, but for every pastor leading a flock. When giving becomes a performance and generosity turns into competition, the church loses the very heart of its mission, compassion. Ironically, some of the most powerful moments in Scripture came from those who gave the least, not because of what they had, but because of what it cost them to give. And many are saying that this incident is a wake-up call for spiritual leaders everywhere to return to that principle. Yet, even amid the growing criticism, Bishop Winans' followers insist that he'll weather the storm, just as he always has. But what happens next may determine whether his ministry remains a symbol of faith or becomes a cautionary tale about pride and perception. Because behind the headlines and hashtags, there's one question no one can ignore. If a pastor can call out a member for giving $1,200, what does that say about the true value of a person's heart in the eyes of the church? And as we'll see in the next section, this incident may be pushing some churchgoers to rethink not just their giving, but their faith itself. The aftermath of Bishop Marvin Winans' viral moment has left a lasting mark, not only on his ministry, but also on the wider faith community. For many, this wasn't just a single misstep. It was a moment that exposed deep cracks in the relationship between pastors and parishioners, especially in the era of social media transparency. In the weeks following the fundraiser incident, attendance at Perfecting Church reportedly dipped. Some longtime members quietly stopped showing up, while others voiced their concerns to church leadership in private. It wasn't just about what he said, one former member told local media. It was about how it made people feel, like the love of God had a price tag. The controversy also drew national attention. Gospel talk shows, Christian podcasts, and YouTube commentary channels began dissecting the clip, questioning whether Bishop Winans' leadership reflected the humility he once preached. Some pointed to his past, noting that this isn't the first time the bishop's ministry has been accused of focusing too heavily on material success. Others defended him, insisting that one viral moment shouldn't erase decades of good work. Still, the optics are hard to ignore. Perfecting Church's reputation as a safe spiritual home has taken a hit, and Bishop Winans' silence hasn't helped. To date, he has not issued a direct apology to the member he allegedly embarrassed. Instead, he released a brief statement saying, "I spoke out of passion for the vision God has placed in our ministry. My heart remains for the people and for the work of the Lord." But for many, that statement fell flat. Critics say what the congregation and the public wanted was accountability, not justification. There's nothing wrong with passion, one gospel blogger wrote, but when passion crosses into pride, it stops being holy. Meanwhile, social media users continue to debate the ethics of the entire event. Some argue that the member's identity should have been protected at all costs. Others have suggested that this moment could push church leaders everywhere to reevaluate how they approach giving and financial stewardship. Inside the church, however, a different conversation is unfolding. Some members have called for reconciliation meetings and healing services, hoping to repair the emotional wounds caused by the incident. Others believe this could be a turning point for Bishop Winans, a chance to refocus his ministry on grace and compassion rather than numbers and notoriety. Even among those who left, there's still a deep sense of sadness rather than anger. "We don't hate him," said one former choir member. "We just want the Bishop Winans we used to know, the one who sang about love, not the one who scolded someone for giving less." In the broader Christian community, the scandal has sparked renewed dialogue about what real generosity looks like. Is it measured by the size of the offering or the sincerity of the sacrifice? As one pastor put it, God doesn't count money. He measures the heart behind it, and perhaps that's where the hope lies, that out of this controversy, a deeper awareness will emerge about how faith and finances should coexist. For Bishop Winans, the road ahead will be challenging. Restoring trust once broken is never easy, especially when the wound was made public. Still, those close to him say he's determined to move forward. Rumors suggest he plans to address the issue more directly in an upcoming sermon, one focused on forgiveness, humility, and returning to the heart of worship. Whether that's enough to mend the divide remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: this moment will go down as a defining chapter in Marvin Winans' legacy, a reminder that no matter how anointed, admired, or accomplished a leader may be, the power of influence comes with the responsibility of grace. The controversy surrounding Bishop Marvin Winans has become more than a headline. It's a moment that challenges every believer to look deeper at what faith, giving, and leadership truly mean. What started as a fundraiser meant to uplift the church has turned into a global conversation about humility, accountability, and how spiritual authority should be exercised in a modern, media-driven age. At its core, this situation isn't just about $1,200. It's about the message that moment sent. When generosity becomes a performance, the sacred act of giving loses its power. When leadership becomes centered on optics rather than empathy, the church stops being a place of healing and turns into a stage of judgment. And that's what has so many people, both inside and outside Perfecting Church, so deeply shaken. Bishop Marvin Winans' legacy as a gospel pioneer and pastor is undeniable. His voice has inspired generations, and his ministry has brought hope to countless lives. But even the most respected leaders are human, and moments like this remind us that titles don't make one immune to error. True leadership isn't about perfection. It's about how you respond when you've gone too far. Now all eyes are on Winans and how he chooses to move forward. Will he defend, deflect, or do what so many are praying for? Take accountability and rebuild with humility? Because if there's one thing this entire saga proves, it's that the public no longer separates faith from transparency. People want honesty, they want compassion, and they want leaders who serve, not shame. At the end of the day, the heart of the matter is simple. God doesn't measure worth in dollars, and he doesn't bless pride. Whether it's a $12 donation or $12,000, it's the sincerity behind it that truly matters. So as this story unfolds, one thing is certain. It has become a cautionary tale for every pastor, leader, and believer. Never let the pursuit of progress overshadow the purpose of grace.